You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Sunday, April 4, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. In Seattle, Frendel Feheran takes us to an anti-Asian hate protest in Washington state. In Edmonton, Alberta, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness.
Canada passes a grim milestone.
In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo.
Georgia governor calls foul on Major League Baseball and Democrats.
In Fort Worth, Texas, Lovely Anderson.
Fort Worth Botanical Garden conducts virtual plant sale, and FEMA winter storm disaster relief registration ends April 20th.
Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina joins us this evening.
City of Las Vegas Department of Public Safety pledges to advance women in law enforcement.
In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot reports about Ambassador Romualdez urging Filipinos to get vaccinated against COVID. In Pensacola, EBC friend Jim Sewell takes us to his COVID-19 vaccination experience. In Honolulu, Alfred Acenas tells us about an update on the Filipino War Veterans Parole Program. Plus, for tonight's roundtable, April 4 is National Hug a Newsperson Day. Let's ask our team who among yesterday's or today's reporters they'd like to hug virtually. Our coverage begins now. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, says two small Ecuadorian girls, 3 and 5 years old, were hoisted over and dropped from the top of a 14-foot wall marking the U.S.-Mexican border in the middle of the night before being picked up by agency officers. CBP said in a statement on Tuesday evening, a Santa Teresa agent utilizing camera technology observed a smuggler dropping 2 young children from the top of the approximately 14-foot high border barrier. The children were taken to a CBP station in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, to be evaluated by medical personnel. They were then transported to a local hospital as a precaution. CBP said the girls remain in the agency's custody. Chief Patrol Agent Gloria Chavez said in a statement she is appalled by the way smugglers viciously dropped innocent children from a 14-foot border barrier last night. Chavez said U.S. agents are working with Mexican authorities to identify those responsible. Chavez also said if not for the vigilance of CBP agents using mobile technology, the 2 tender-age siblings would have been exposed to the harsh elements of the desert environment for hours. The United States is facing an increase of migrant arrivals at the county's southern border, mostly Central Americans, who say they are fleeing poverty and violence in their own countries. Recently, there has been an average of 500 unaccompanied children crossing each day. President Joe Biden's administration is facing growing pressure to confront the situation and criticisms about how the unaccompanied minors have been cared for while under U.S. government custody. According to official statistics, the Department of Health and Human Services had 12,918 migrant children in their care as of Tuesday, while CBP was responsible for the care of another 5,285. In Washington state, residents took to the streets to demand an end to anti-Asian Pacific Islander hate and violence. In Seattle, Bureau Chief Frendel Feheran has the details.
Whenever injustice hits home, the people, together with their allies, band together to bring awareness for a political and social change. I'm here in Seattle, Chinatown International District, where the Stop Hate Asian rally is taking place.
Amid an interesting time, peaceful and positive energy exudes from the people gathering for the day's event, some holding up signs which are worth vocalizing. We belong. And as you can see the sign there to your left, Thai, Cambodian, Vietnamese, Korean, Filipino, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, bound together in the word American. Stop Asian hate. We belong here. Protect our elders. The majority is smiling behind their masks, supporting the very purpose of the event, which is to stand up against anti-Asian American Pacific Islander hate crimes and racism. Organizers have made the effort to unite on stage a handful of local speakers and artists, like spoken word artist Danica Tran. By the thoughtful words and artistry, attendees cheer in unity to highlight the value of culture and the right for justice. Now, art comes in various forms, and all forms come from a special place in one's heart. Local spoken word artist Danica Tran takes time to share the meaning behind her piece.
Right, so I shared two pieces. One of them is a song called Children of the Sun, and I said whoever resonates with it resonates, because it's really about people that have come from different countries, different homelands, and I wanted to make that song as a pact of solidarity for us to really come and understand one another. So now being here together shows that we're not going to take it anymore. We're really going to stand for ourselves, and we're driving a force for change, to be treated equally and for our cultures to be respected.
In Seattle, Washington, I'm Frendel Faharin, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Frendel, for that report. Now, here are today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, April 4, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 131,128,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S. more than 30.7 million, followed by Brazil more than 12.9 million, and India more than 12.4 million. This virus has now already claimed more than 2,850,000 lives. Top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S., more than 554,000, Brazil, more than 330,000, and Mexico, more than 204,000. And now for more COVID news, thousands of people gather in Stuttgart to protest against restrictions to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Take a look.
Die Zahlen sinken und wir werden trotzdem in diesem Lockdown gehalten. In der Wohnungshaft, sagt man im Wohnhaft. RKI untersteht der Regierung. So, und deswegen glaube ich da gar nichts.
The city of Rio de Janeiro, hard hit by the coronavirus pandemic ravaging Brazil, extended a set of restrictions Friday, seeking to limit person-to-person transmission as the death toll continues to climb. Mayor Eduardo Paes said the measures, which entered into force 2 weeks ago and were due to expire on Sunday, had contributed to hospital admissions starting to level off for the first time in weeks. But this was not enough, Paes said. If there had been a major drop, the restrictions could have been reduced from next Monday. He said he wants to open beaches and restaurants, but that decision is based on scientific data. The mayor said you have to give a little more time, no matter how hard it is for companies and for those looking for work to earn a living. These decreases in people-to-people contact are already paying off. The occupancy rate of intensive care beds in the city remains at over 90% as Brazil battles its toughest phase of the outbreaks so far. March was the deadliest month for Brazil since the pandemic first started, with 66,573 deaths, more than double the previous record set in July 2020. Brazil's death toll of over 325,000 is second only to that of the United States, with more than 500,000. Rio de Janeiro state, with more than 37,000 dead, has a mortality rate of 215 per 100,000 inhabitants, higher than the national average of 141. Paes said schools in Rio City will reopen for in-person lessons on Tuesday. But non-essential business, restaurants, cinemas, museums, and theaters included, will not be allowed to reopen before Friday, and then with restricted hours. The city's famous beaches will remain off limits until April 19, when a daily curfew from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. will also be lifted and dance clubs reopened. In Washington, President Joe Biden implores Americans to keep up its guard against COVID-19, despite the optimism fueled by the nation's strong vaccination drive. Take a look.
This morning, we've learned that our economy created 900,000 jobs in March. It means the first 2 months of our administration has seen more new jobs created than the first 2 months in any administration in history. But we still have a long way to go. to get our economy back on track after the worst economic and job crisis in nearly a century. So I plead with you, don't give back the progress we've all fought so hard to achieve. We need to finish this job. We need every American to buckle down and keep their guard up in this home stretch. Wear your mask. Keep safe distance from one another. Wash your hands. Get vaccinated when it's your turn. That's how we're going to beat the virus.
Up next, updates from Alberta and Georgia. Eagle News America continues.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net 25.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net 25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science, and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net 25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Canada has just passed a COVID milestone not worth celebrating. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us tonight. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, they're not bringing out the cake and candles for this one. It's a number we did not want to see up here in Canada, north of the 49th parallel. 1 million. That's 1 million plus cases of the coronavirus reported since the pandemic began 14 months ago. Now, as of a few hours ago, just over 56,000 of those were active cases. In 14 months, the infection has claimed over 23,000 lives. And things are not getting any better as the country is into its third wave. And this time around, the outbreaks are different. Variants of the original virus are rapidly becoming the dominant causative agent. And these variants are more contagious. They produce symptoms that are more serious. That means putting more people in hospital, which puts a greater strain on an already overworked healthcare system. And this variant is, all of the variants, in fact, are attacking younger people in larger numbers, more seriously. They tend to be hospitalized more often, quite often in intensive care units. These variants, coupled with a slow rollout of vaccines in Canada, well, that's all creating a perfect storm for this third wave. We started April with less than 2% of the population fully immunized, 1.75% to be exact, and just under 12% have received at least one shot. So we're quite a ways behind the United States and many other countries. And with the way things stand, we certainly can't vaccinate our way out of this situation. Dr. Steiny Brown, one of the officials on the COVID committee in Ontario, says we can't get enough doses fast enough to immunize enough people to break this third wave. Now, let's throw in another factor into the mix for this perfect storm. COVID fatigue. People are tired of the lockdowns, the restrictions, and in some parts of the country, they're simply starting to ignore them. And that's driving the spread of the disease. So, all in all, it's going to be an interesting spring here as more provinces in Canada look to lock down or bringing in more restrictions. 3 provinces have already tightened things up in the last week. And in my province, in the last 3 days, public health officials recording more than 3,000 new cases of the virus. So it's likely we'll see more restrictions in my neck of the woods as well. As this plays out in Canada, we just try to stay safe. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas, for your report. Now, we do appreciate the updates, even though it sounds quite unsettling there. But you mentioned, some of the issues. Aside from the variants, what are public health officials worried about?
Well, the big one right now is we're just coming off a holiday weekend, and you're in the same holiday weekend, well, pretty much worldwide. And if past history is any indicator, if we learn anything from past history, we can expect a surge in cases to follow. This happened last fall, following the Thanksgiving holiday, and later following the December holidays. Well, maybe not as much up here because we were in lockdown, but the fear is that people have been gathering despite a ban on public, or on, I should say, private social gatherings, and people have also been traveling. This activity, coupled with the variants, coupled with COVID fatigue, coupled with not enough vaccine, well, it's got people in healthcare worried. So now we have to wait a couple of weeks to see just how far those numbers will rise. Anna?
And then also I heard that Canada has recalled the type of face mask there. I mean, I'm sure that adds to all of that. Can you tell us about that, Thomas?
Yeah, and this one is probably not that common in use. They're pretty pricey. I think they're $30 plus. They're a reusable face mask that contains graphene. Now graphene is what's known as a nanoparticle. These are particles you can't see. Some of them are only a few hundred atoms in size, so that's small. Graphene is a single layer of carbon atoms. They're arranged in kind of almost like a web, almost like a honeycomb. And it's said to have antiviral and antibacterial properties. So some manufacturers have incorporated into these reusable face masks. Now, the fear is these graphene particles can break away and be inhaled. And of course, do they cause lung damage? Nobody knows. So Health Canada is telling people who have these masks, don't use them. They've been recalled. They're not for sale now. The sale is banned in Canada. That is until regulators can determine whether they are safe. And like I said before, these aren't your regular masks that you find. They're regular reusables. They're quite pricey. $30 and up, kind of a specialty item. And just for background, Health Canada is kind of like your Food and Drug Administration in America. It regulates medical devices, treatments, and medications, things like that. Anna?
Well, I mean, we certainly see all types of face masks since the pandemic started, and we can't have any type of mask that will cause any more trouble. Right, Thomas? Yeah,
we've seen problems with substandard masks. These are kind of a high-tech thing, and it's mainly making sure that they're safe, because you don't want to find out 10 years down the road you got a lung problem because you were wearing this mask for extended periods of time.
Yes. Well, some people, think of great intentions, but not always. Not
always practical, and not always well researched. And thank goodness the regulators are keeping an eye on things. Anna?
Yes. Well, thank you, Thomas, for your update, and we'll talk to you a little bit later on the show.
I look forward to it.
Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia calls a foul on Major League Baseball and on his Democrat opponents. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo has the details. Philip?
Thanks, Anna. And it definitely feels like a little bit of deja vu because once again, the state of Georgia is at the forefront of politics in the nation. Just over a week ago, the state legislature passed and Governor Brian Kemp signed into law a bill that contains a variety of changes to the way elections will be done here in the state. Opponents and critics of the bill say that it restricts or disadvantages black voters and those in poorer areas of the state, which is a demographic often credited with helping swing this reliably red state to blue in the last election. Major corporations have spoken out against the bill, and on Friday, Major League Baseball made the decision to pull the upcoming All-Star game away from Atlanta. The governor, as you could imagine, was not very happy with this decision. Take a look.
Yesterday, Major League Baseball caved to fear and lies from liberal activists. They ignored the facts of our new election integrity law, and they ignored the consequences of their decision on our local community. In the middle of a pandemic, Major League Baseball put the wishes of Stacey Abrams and Joe Biden ahead of the economic well-being of hard-working Georgians who were counting on the All-Star game for a paycheck. Georgians and all Americans should know what this decision means. It means cancel culture and partisan activists are coming for your business. They're coming for your game or event in your hometown. And they're coming to cancel everything from sports to how you make a living.
Now, Saturday press conferences are a little bit rare, so the governor also took a shot at the state of New York. Take a look.
They don't care about jobs, they don't care about our communities, and they certainly don't care about access to the ballot box. Because if they did, Major League Baseball would have announced that they were moving their headquarters from New York yesterday. In New York. In New York, they have 10 days of early voting. In Georgia, we have a minimum of 17, with 2 additional Sundays that are optional for all counties in our state. In New York, you have to have an excuse to vote by absentee. In Georgia, you can vote absentee for any reason, and you can do it securely. It's easier to vote in Georgia than it is in New York.
Now, in there, you heard the governor call out his former opponent and prominent Democrat, Stacey Abrams. Now, she posted on her social media that while she applauded the MLB and others for speaking out, she didn't want to see Georgian families hurt by boycotts, as it would also affect those who are affected by voter suppression. Now, with all of this, you might be asking, what exactly is in this controversial bill? Well, let's see what Stacey Abrams herself had to say just a few days prior to the MLB's announcement.
Weekend voting, and specifically souls to the polls, disproportionately used by Black Georgians, remain in place. Georgia voters will continue to be able to vote by mail regardless of their reason for doing so. And eligible Georgians will continue to be automatically registered to vote when they obtain their driver's licenses, unless they opt out. Unlike some, though, I won't sugarcoat this. Senate Bill 202 is a power-grabbing and voter criminalizing suppression bill that is nothing less than Jim Crow 2.0.
State GOP leaders would agree with that first part of the clip, but say that the other measures that are being criticized are to help make elections more secure. Now, critics such as Abrams and President Biden himself say that measures such as reducing the time frame allowed for voters to request absentee ballots or requiring ballot drop-offs to be located indoors versus 24/7 outdoor access like in the last election, these things will restrict voting. ID numbers are now required instead of doing a signature match on absentee ballots. And one of the more controversial measures, the law gives the state legislature, which, by the way, is controlled by Republicans, the power to select the state chair of elections instead of it being the Secretary of State, which is normally an elected position. Finally, it also restricts the ability to hand out water bottles within a certain distance from the polling place, which, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, could mean that it will either keep outside groups from influencing voters or discourage voters from standing in long lines on a hot or a cold day. Now, the high-profile back and forth on this issue doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, so we'll provide updates as soon as they come. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for that update. I'm sure we'll hear more. As more updates become available. Now, the governor seemed pretty confident in this bill. Are there any measures that expand voting?
Yes, Anna. So politics aside, you heard from, in both of those clips, different measures that were alluded to. So a couple of things. The law codifies or makes it mandatory that there is a minimum number of ballot drop boxes in counties across the state, and now requires 2 instead of 1 Saturday set aside for early voting. It also has a measure where the state has to monitor precincts, and if lines or people are waiting in line for more than an hour in the next election, they have to either add more resources to that precinct or create a whole new voting precinct to help make the election day process go a little bit smoother. Anna?
Thank you, Philip. Now, Stacey Abrams mentioned that souls to the polls was still allowed. Can you expand on that?
Yes, and I had to actually look that up myself because I wasn't sure exactly what it referred to. But basically, it refers to church-run voting efforts that were held on Sundays, which were mentioned were primarily used by Black voters. Previous versions of the bill had a call to end Sunday voting, but that didn't make it into the final version. There were also many calls to ban no-reason absentee voting, but as, again, you heard in both of the clips, that also didn't make it into the final bill.
Well, thank you for coming on the show tonight, Philip. Looking forward to more of your updates on the situation. Stay safe.
Thanks, Anna.
Still to come, stories from Texas and Nevada. This is Eagle News America.
Start up your weekday mornings with edutainment, news and information kasama ang inyong paboritong Net25 shows. Samahan ang inyong paboritong morning barkada sa Pambansang Almusal at 5 a.m. Tatalakayin mga pangunahing balita sa pagtutulungan ng Radyo Agila at Net25. Samahan si Weng de la Fuente sa Balitalakayan, 7 a.m. Saganang Mamamayan at 8 a.m. NHK World at 9 a.m. Eagle News International at 10 a.m. At mga balitang dapat niyong malaman mula sa Agila, Pilipinas at 11 a.m. This is your morning startup every weekday mornings only here on Net25. Samahan sina Wedge Kujamat,
itong balitang panggising sa ulo ng mga balita.
Apo David,
Sa 60 katao ang isinugod sa ospital.
Phoebe Publico,
Economic sabotage ang mga tiwaling negosyante.
at Cristel Fesalbon.
Pagpresyo ng gulay, makakausap natin
Para ihatid sa inyo ang mga kaganapan at pangyayari sa bansa at sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Mga napapanahong isyu ng bayan. May balitang sports, entertainment at iba pang kaalaman. Simula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng umaga sa paborito nyong morning show, Pambansang Almusal, dito sa Net25.
Pambansang Almusal. Salamat musika. Lahat ng panahon, maaasahan ka.
Anahui in Las Vegas. Several stories from the Lone Star State tonight, calling all plant enthusiasts. The Fort Worth Botanic Garden is holding a virtual plant sale. Plus, the registration for FEMA's winter storm disaster relief is about to end. Eagle News correspondent Lovely Anderson reports. Lovely?
Thank you, Anna. Magandang umaga, Philippines, and good evening, America. Howdy, all the way from the Lone Star State. Spring is here, and so are the spring temperatures. Today, the high was in the 70s, partially cloudy with a little nice breeze here in the downtown area. A nice day for church this morning and a good outdoor cooking weather today as well. And for any of my plant whisperers out there, the Fort Worth Botanical Garden and Botanical Research Institute of Texas is holding an online spring plant sale from April the 9th to the 11th. The virtual plant sale is a great opportunity to stock up on spring plants while consulting with botanical garden professionals if needed. The virtual plant sale helps to ensure guest safety, and shoppers can choose plants online, check out, and then schedule a time for pickup their orders at the garden. Advice seekers can also call in and chat with master gardeners to ask questions about selecting and growing plants. Vice President of the Horticulture and Assistant Director Bob Byers stated, this year, it's also an opportunity to replace some of the plants that didn't survive the February hard freeze. Available plants include perennials, bulbs, tree, and shrubs, all chosen by garden experts. Rob Burenstein, the garden's resident citrus specialist, will also have a variety of citrus trees and can provide consultation by phone or by email. To learn more about the Fort Worth Botanical Garden or to have your own botanical garden at home, visit www.fwbg.org. And although the winter storms have already been replaced by warmer weather, the recent impact on the state of Texas still continues, or in some cases are just starting to surface. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has made federal benefits available for renters affected by the storm, which include rental assistance, lodging expense and reimbursement, moving and storage expenses, and personal property benefits. For the residents to receive assistance, they must be registered with FEMA by April the 20th. So those applying need to indicate they are unable to live at a damaged address and must enter their actual income when asked for it. If residents have substantial damage and mold growth at their personal property, they should photograph any damaged property, and if they are eligible for potential personal property benefits. An inspector will review the situation, and FEMA may provide moving and storage benefits. For more information, visit www.disasterassistance.gov. In addition, affected renters can also apply for low-interest, long-term loans for Small Business Administration by visiting www.sba.gov. Meanwhile, I hope you all are staying healthy and safe in your part of the country. In Fort Worth, Texas, I'm Lovely Anderson, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lovely. Those were so beautiful. The flowers, the purple one, I don't know what they're called, but that was really pretty. Now, what is your house plant of choice?
You know, Anna, I have to admit, my mom has a green thumb, but unfortunately, me not so much. I probably can kill even a cactus. I don't know. I'm just horrible with plants. So I don't do plants so much, but my mom does, not me.
Oh, you didn't inherit it. Same here, Lovely. I can't take care of a cactus even. Right now, I have this one succulent plant that was given to me, and it's sitting there. It's still looking okay. It's been a couple of weeks.
Well, good for you.
How about this botanical garden? Are they open? Are you planning on visiting it?
Okay, so here in Fort Worth, we have the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens. And if you don't know what it is exactly is just a garden of flowers, different types of flowers, trees, plants, shrubs. It's just a garden full of all these beautiful plants that are laid out just for people to come, and you can look at the plants, you can take pictures. It's just a nice scenery. They actually also do like different events where they'll have like my favorite is when they have the Japanese event. So it's all like Japanese different plants, and of course the bamboo trees and all that good stuff. So whenever they do have the Asian showcase, I always like to go to those. Those are really nice.
Well, that's good to hear, Lovely. So the next time you go out there, make sure that you take more pictures for us and make sure you share it with us.
Will do. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for your updates, and we'll talk to you a little bit in the show. Las Vegas is pledging to advance gender equity in its law enforcement department. Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina reports. Lori?
Thank you, Anna, and greetings to all our viewers in America and abroad. Although Women's History Month was in March, the city of Las Vegas continues to celebrate women. On April 1st, the Las Vegas Department of Public Safety signed on to the 30-30 Pledge, a series of low and no-cost actions law enforcement agencies can take to improve the representation and experiences of women in law enforcement. The activities help agencies assess the current state of a department with regard to gender equity and identify factors that may be driving any disparities. It also helps to develop and implement strategies and solutions to eliminate barriers and advance women in law enforcement. These actions address recruitment, assessment, hiring, retention, promotion, and agency culture. The 30-30 Initiative is a coalition of law enforcement leaders, researchers, and professional organizations who have joined together to advance the representation and experiences of women in all ranks of law enforcement across the United States. The ultimate goal of the 30-30 Initiative is to reach 30% of women in law enforcement recruit classes by 2030, and to ensure policing agencies are truly representative of the jurisdiction the agency serves. While 30-30 is focused on advancing women in law enforcement, these principles are applicable to all demographic diversity, not just gender. More than 35 agencies from major metro departments, including the New York City Police Department, to mid-sized rural university and state policing agencies, have signed a 30-30 pledge. The pledge is based on social science research that greater representation of women on police forces leads to better policing outcomes for communities. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori. Now, what are your thoughts about this initiative?
Well, Anna, I think society can definitely benefit from equal representation for women. And the good news is that some research suggests that female officers, 1, use less force and less excessive force, 2, are named in fewer complaints and lawsuits, 3, are perceived by communities as being more honest and compassionate, and 4, see better outcomes for crime victims, especially in sexual assault cases. And I think these are all reasons to support this initiative.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I know we talked about this not too long ago in the broadcast, how gender equality in the workforce, it still has a long way to go. And how do you see the future related to more women in law enforcement, specifically here in Las Vegas?
I think these initiatives that we just talked about is a great step forward. And as far as the next generation, I love that, you know, in Hollywood or, you know, and other things, we can see that there are a lot of women heroes. But for real life examples like law enforcement or any public office, I would love for my daughter to be able to see those kind of role models. Anna?
Yes, you know, now that I think about it, Lori, since I'm also here in Las Vegas, I can't remember the last time I saw a female officer, just now that I'm thinking about it. Well, we appreciate you being on the show tonight, Lori, and thank you for that update, and we'll talk to you a little bit in the show. Stay safe.
Thanks, Anna.
Up next, stories from Washington, Hawaii, and Florida. Plus, tonight's roundtable, National Hug a Newsperson Day, giving our favorite reporters a virtual hug. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Malalayong lugar ang kanilang narating para maghanap buhay. Tulungan ang pamilyang iniwan sa sariling bayan. Yan ang ating mga overseas Filipino worker. Pero dahil sa di pangkaraniwang pangyayaring hatid ay krisis, may ilan sa kanilang nagpasyang umuwi. Pinagyaman ang sariling lupain, nagtayo ng negosyo na kasama sa puhunan ang sipag at tiyaga. Ang mga OFW, maraming sakripisyo, ninanais maging kapaki-pakinabang maging sa kanilang pagbabalik bansa. Sapagkat ang ating mga bagong bayani, Pilipino pa rin sa puso at damdamin.
Welcome back. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. This is Eagle News America. Saying he is a firm believer of the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez, urges Filipinos to get vaccinated. In Washington, EBC's Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmot reports.
In the first in-person event hosted by the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C. since pandemic restrictions were put in place, Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez urges Filipinos to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
The only way out of this pandemic, I'm one of those firm believers in the vaccines, not for anything else, but, you know, this is a pandemic that no one has ever predicted. And we can only be grateful to those that have been able to develop a vaccine, and an effective one at that, to help control this pandemic. It'll take many, many years for this pandemic to be completely eradicated. And we all know even the flu is every year we have to have a flu shot to be able to help us in keeping ourselves safe and healthy. So I would encourage everyone to take it. And I know that we're having problems in getting the vaccine supply, but we're working very hard here in the United States for those companies that we've already signed an agreement with, like Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, and perhaps Pfizer also, we're working together with the State Department and the White House to try and get those vaccines to the Philippines as quickly as possible. We're hoping that as the United States gets its vaccine program and rollout completed by May, I understand from the office of President Biden, then we're hoping that the supply will be much easier to be delivered to us in due time.
Romualdez says ambassadors of ASEAN nations are working on a more efficient vaccine rollout for their respective countries. In Washington, D.C., Eliza Gonzalez, Manglikmot, Eagle News, will live in interesting times.
Thank you, Eliza, for that report. ABC friend Jim Sewell in Pensacola takes a break from his gardening activities. Jim, who says he was more excited than nervous, let us tag along his COVID-19 vaccination experience. Take a look.
After hearing on March 19th that the age requirement for the COVID vaccination in the state of Florida had dropped from 65 years old to 50 years old, I went online to schedule an appointment. In Florida, the vaccination is available at most pharmacies, and I was able to schedule an appointment at my local neighborhood Walmart within 4 days after the March 19th announcement. I clicked on the Schedule Now button, confirmed I was over the age of 40, found an available date and time, and made my reservation for a COVID-19 Moderna vaccination. All right, we got Luke cleaned up, and we're getting ready to go get the shot. I'm a little nervous, but honestly, I'm more excited. I'm eager to get it done. It's only a few minutes ride to the pharmacy. Since compiling this report, Florida has dropped the age requirement to 18 years and older, so I'm feeling good about getting an appointment when I did. Upon arriving, I made my way to the Walmart pharmacy and was met by an associate who checked my temperature and gave me a short questionnaire to complete. Well, pretty easy. I just got a really short form to fill out. After completing the form, I carried it to the pharmacy service window and provided my Florida driver's license and health insurance card. So I filled out some paperwork really fast, just 2 or 3 questions, and now I'm waiting in this small little waiting area to get my shot. So won't be long now. After a few minutes of waiting, the pharmacist came and directed me to a cubicle in front of the pharmacy to receive my vaccination. So I was excited to, get the shot. Because when it first came open to people under or over the age of 50, like all of the reservations booked. Immediately. But I kept going back each day, and like within a couple of days, you all had an opening, which was great because I come here all the time anyway. There we go. That's it. I didn't even feel anything. Are you done? I'm done. That was nothing. Great. You're awesome. Didn't feel a thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll come out and I'll bring you your little card. You just have to wait outside for about 15, well, not outside, but just out here for about 15 minutes.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much.
You're very
That was
welcome.
nothing. I didn't even feel it go in. So I'm just going to wait here for 15 minutes like the sign says, and still really don't feel any different or don't feel any pain or anything. After my 15 minutes of waiting, the pharmacist returned with my CDC proof of vaccination, which indicated that I had received the first dose of the Moderna vaccine and confirmed my reservation to take the second dose of the vaccine in 4 weeks. All right.
All right.
Easy enough. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thank you. So it's been about 10 hours since I got the shot, and honestly, I kind of forgot about it. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my arm and see. Yeah, it's not even red. But the reason why I remembered I got a shot, it's starting to feel a little stiff. And what's weird, I feel a little stiff in my neck and shoulders, but really, that's about it. No pain. I don't feel feverish or anything like that. Just slight stiffness, but other than that, I feel fine. So it's been over 24 hours, and I feel fine. Honestly, I'm really eager for these next few weeks to pass so I can get the second dose. From Pensacola, Florida, Jim Sewell, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Jim, for letting us tag along with you there. I love that we got an update 10 hours later and then 24 hours later, and we hope that you're continuing to do well after getting the vaccine. I did notice though that your muscle flinched there a little bit as you were waiting to feel that needle. But thank you again for that update. Now, since the early 2000s, a congressman from Hawaii has made it a top priority to help aging Filipino war veterans in the U.S. reunite with their loved ones still in the Philippines. Alfred Acenas from ABC Hawaii Pacific has this exclusive.
Congressman Ed Case explains why he has taken great interest in helping families in the Philippines to be reunited with their war veteran loved ones already in their twilight years.
One issue that rose to the top pretty fast for me in that representation was that with our Filipino World War II veterans who had fought, of course, incredibly bravely during World War II, had come to this country in part as a recognition for their services, them and their spouses, and then family members could not join them because of this long wait. And the fact of the matter was the veterans were getting elderly. They needed care. They should be with their families. They needed the care of their families, and yet their families could not reunify with them. And so it was in that period in my own service that I introduced the original bill, which was to allow for expedited immigration consideration for the families, the close families, primarily adult children of Filipino World War II veterans. And I didn't succeed in passing that actual bill during that service, but of course later on, that was achieved through the parole process, which is a special proceeding available to the administration to essentially fast-track the immigration situation in humanitarian areas. So in other words, one could gain humanitarian parole for a family member in emergency situations to care for their family member in the United States without having to wait all of those years on a temporary basis. So it wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a solution that was available then.
The Hawaii congressman also described the challenges he faced in keeping the program alive and available, especially during the Trump administration.
The Trump administration decided to terminate the parole program. This was about 2 years ago, and I felt that was dead wrong. So bringing you up to date, they proceeded with it anyway, but they did not fully implement the revocation of the parole program. And neither to this date has it been revoked. So it remains in place. Folks that are here under parole to take care of their elderly family members can stay here. But when the Biden administration came into office, we urged President Biden's new administration to reverse the prior decision to revoke the parole program. And we're awaiting their decision. And thus far, the federal government has not moved forward with that revocation. So, we hope that what that means is that they're reconsidering it. Now, one thing I should note is that President Biden has proposed his U.S. Citizenship Act, which is a major bill to reform our immigration system. And the bill that both Senator Hirono and I have introduced into the last Congress is part of a massive measure that's before Congress today. So we've made headway in terms of educating folks on what this is all about.
Although Mr. Case did not specify the costs that applicants might incur, he did assure that the federal government will do everything possible to assist veterans and their families to be reunited, no matter the cost.
Well, the cost of administering the parole program are not, I don't think, significant costs. They're more administrative. They're the cost of processing an application for parole. And it's been relatively limited in terms of the number of applications for use of this program. I think that, again, there aren't that many World War II veterans left. And I think the parole program, since it started, has had only about 600 applications, of which 300 plus have been accepted. And so that's not a big cost.
Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Alfred Acenas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
For more information, visit the website uscis.gov and search for the Filipino World War II Veterans Parole Program. Thank you, Alfred, for that report. Now, April 4 is National Hug a Newsperson Day. Like us here in EBC, news people are considered essential workers and have not stopped bringing you stories despite the dangers of the pandemic. Tonight, we recognize all the news people, those who go on camera, and also those who work behind the scenes. Let's ask our team here, who among the many admirable colleagues we have in the news industry would they want to send a virtual hug to? Now, let's start with Thomas.
Well, that's a tough one. There are so many of them that I have followed or worked with over the years. Now, full disclosure, I was a full-time broadcaster and journalist from 1973 to 2010. But I would have to say these days, anyone courageous enough to make this profession a career deserves a hug. Over the last 4 or 5 years, their work has been devalued by people in power, been devalued by corporations that took over newspapers. I just have a lot of admiration for anyone who's tough enough to survive in this field and make a career out of it and bring the facts home to you and me and everybody else. I love them all.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, especially, you mentioned how it's changed, and especially in some places, it's even become so dangerous. So
it has. There are countries where you literally take your life in your hands. If you comment on anything, you have to be so careful. And yet these people do. They comment, they tell the truth, and they risk prison and or death.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Thomas. And how about Philip? Philip, who would you like to give a virtual hug to?
Yeah, Anna, I definitely agree with everything Thomas said. I'll narrow it down a little bit, even though my answer is still general. But I want to send a virtual hug to all of my Eagle News America colleagues. It may seem kind of cheesy, right? But, as I was sitting and just reflecting over the past year, at least for me, I haven't really been able to go out and hang out with my friends and do social things on a normal basis, like, pretty much all of us have experienced, right? But mostly every Sunday, every Tuesday, I'm here with, if it's not exactly everybody who's joining us tonight, but, that's the constant connection, or one of the constant connections that we've all had, and it's a small world. One of our producers tonight, Jane Kathleen Gregorio, I knew her growing up in Texas, and Lovely is in Texas now, and I feel like I want to go to Vegas after, spending all of these nights with you, Anna and Lori. So, and of course, The Voice, Thomas Likeness there in Edmonton, Alberta. I just can't wait for the day that, we'll be able to all, gather and see each other in person. But, until then, a virtual hug, and thanks to everybody for all that you do and keeping this fun for all of us here at Eagle News America.
Absolutely, Philip. We are looking forward. Hopefully we can have our in-person conference with all of our news correspondents all over, not just here in the U.S., but of course including Canada and other places.
Absolutely.
And how about you, Lori? Who would you like to give a virtual hug to?
I do like the group hug that's happening here with, giving our virtual hugs to everyone. If I have to narrow it, though, Anna, I feel like we're both in Vegas, but I haven't seen you in real life for almost a year. And so just thank you for inspiring me to even contribute to Eagle News. So here's my virtual hug to you from one Vegas girl to another Vegas girl. Anna.
Thank you for that, Laura. Yes, I know. I mean, we're both here. We're just minutes away, and like you said, you know, we haven't seen each other in person. So probably maybe twice since the last year, right? 2 or 3 times.
Not enough, and definitely
So
no hugging
hopefully
going on.
Exactly. Now, how about you, Lovely?
Sorry. For me, all of you guys, of course, I love EBC correspondents and our whole group. But, however, I have to give it up to the Queen, and that's Oprah and Barbara Walters for me. So those two are my favorite. Everybody loves Oprah, and everybody loves Barbara Walters. So if I could give a virtual hug, it'd be those two strong women.
Yes, absolutely. We can't forget them. Now, you know, as for me as well, I would love to give everyone in our Eagle News team a hug. Those of you who are here with us tonight, and of course, the ones that, you know, come on nightly. And especially hug to Mayanne Manzano-Guerzon, because I know that, you know, with her little one, sometimes we hear in the background, which just makes it real, right? Because of these situations that we're in. So big hugs to all of you, and I thank you for sharing that with us. Now it's time to thank our frontliners, first responders, and essential workers, newspersons included. A much-deserved round of applause. Let's join together, team, and give them a round of applause. We appreciate all of you for what you do. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Cui, and we live in interesting times.